Start in just a moment here. One thing I always appreciate days when I feel like I'm running late here, I always know, okay, it's a little slow. So. All right, I would like to call the Wednesday, May 14th, Middletown Planning Commission meeting to order. Ms. Benninger, if you would please call the roll.
Will Parsons,
Here.
AJ Mintel,
Present.
Gabriel Shanlin,
Here.
Nancy Griffith, Roger Daniel, David Cash, and Tara Ramsey Hunter.
Here.
Thank you. Now, if you would, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is the approval of the previous meeting minutes from March 12th and April 9th. Although I believe, are we only approving the April minutes tonight, or are we approving both?
Did you guys get my email with the March 9th or March 12th?
Okay,
So it'll be both sets. Yes, please.
perfect. Do we have any requested changes or items that need to be addressed within those minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Parsons,
Yes?
Mr. Mintel,
Yes.
Mr. Shanlin,
Yes.
Mr. Daniel, Mr. Cash, and Ms. Ramsey Hunter.
Yes.
Next on the agenda is a public hearing for a conditional use request by Middletown Sober Living LLC. Ms. Benninger, could you please take us through? Sure, yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get you sworn in first.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thanks.
All right, this is a request by applicant Middletown Sober Living LLC for conditional use approval to allow for transitional housing, specifically level 2 recovery housing at 700 Crawford Street. The property is currently zoned R4 attached residential district, where such use is a conditional use and requires review and approval by the City Planning Commission per Table 1204-3 of the Middletown Development Code. Looking at property background, the subject property is a total of just under 0.2 acres, according to the Butler County Auditor. Last sold in December of '22. The primary structure on the property is a single-family dwelling built in 1908 and has a total of 4 bedrooms and 2 full baths to make up just under 2,500 square feet of above-grade living area. The subject property also includes a detached garage with driveway access from Grand Avenue. The subject property, that purpose of that zoning district is to provide for moderate to high-density residential development, generally located in the core area of the city, and that reflects the urban development pattern in and around downtown Middletown. Getting into the staff analysis, the applicant proposes to use the property as a transitional home. Like I said, the level 2 recovery house. Transitional housing use type is defined in the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1230, as a temporary housing arrangement designed to assist persons to obtain skills, financial wherewithal, and or the physical, physiological, and emotional stability necessary for independent living and permanent housing in a community. Transitional housing is housing in which an organization provides a program of therapy, counseling, supervision, and or training for the occupants. The organization operating the program may or may not be licensed or authorized by governmental authority. And the program is for the purpose of assisting the occupants in one or more of the following types of care: protection from abuse and neglect, and developing skills and the personal stability that is necessary to adjust to life in the community, and treatment of the effects of substance abuse, even if under criminal justice supervision. This definition does not, or includes the terms halfway house, safe house, temporary care home, and other similar uses. This does not include the term group home as defined in our development code or other similar permanent group living facilities. Ohio Recovery Housing defines level 2 recovery housing as monitored, including an administration structure of a house manager or senior resident with policy and procedures for the residents. Services of a level 2 recovery home include house rules to provide structure, peer-run groups, drug screenings, house meetings, and involvement in self-help and/or treatment services. Resident types for level 2 recovery homes are primarily single-family residences, but can also be apartments or other dwelling types. The level 2 recovery homes also include at least one compensated position. I did include the use-specific standards which a conditional use may be subject to if you guys so choose, which are listed here. So let's get into these a little bit. No exterior alteration of the structure shall be made which departs from the residential character of the building. All new structures prepared shall be of compatible residential design with surrounding neighborhood to the degree possible. In order to prevent the concentration of such facilities, no transitional house shall be located within 1,500 feet of any other transitional house or group home. Such distances shall be measured. I won't get into that. The facility shall have 24-hour supervision consistent with pertinent supporting agency standards, subject to review and final approval by the Planning Commission. Prior to the issuance of a final certificate of occupancy, the operator or agency shall provide evidence that a valid license has been issued or is obtainable for this proposed use on the subject property. If licensing is not available, a verified affidavit so stating shall be presented. In your guys' review, you shall make specific findings of fact relative to the following criteria. Is licensed by the appropriate authority to provide such service within the state and the city. If that is not provided or available, a certified affidavit so stating shall be presented to document this statement. Will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the surrounding uses so that such use will not change the essential character of the same area. Will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or planned future neighboring uses from the standpoint of noise, lights, congestion, or traffic generation, which will be incompatible with the neighborhood environment. Will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police and fire protection, drainage, and schools, or that the persons or agencies responsible for the establishment of the proposed use shall be able to provide adequately any such services, and will not involve uses, activities, conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare, and will have vehicle approaches to the property which shall be so designed as to not create an interference with traffic on surrounding public streets. Getting into the public notice requirement, I did give notice to the applicant at least 14 days, I believe, as well as posted in the Journal News and as the property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. 2 comments have been received to date. Both have been phone calls with residents that live in the direct vicinity of the subject property. One resident asked a few questions about the proposed use, including the number of residents that would be living at the subject property, if there would be someone on staff to support the residents, and the type of residents that would be staying at the house. The resident was in slight opposition, but did note that everyone deserves a second chance. The other residents that called the city spoke in strong opposition. The resident noted that the block of Crawford that includes the subject property is a nice block, and that there were serious concerns about the traffic, crime, and emergency services and overall condition of the area that the proposed use would bring to the neighborhood. As for other department comments received, the Community and Economic Development Department stated state certification is needed, and clarification on staffing is needed, including the licensures of staff that would be present at all hours. The applicant did not include any additional vital information regarding this requested use. The building division noted that the applicant will need to submit an architectural set of plans for the change of use going from a single-family dwelling to transitional home, and permits will be needed for all work executed. The Middletown Comprehensive Plan indicates this property in question is located in the mixed residential land use category, which is defined as primarily a mix of residential housing types and styles. It supports a range of housing styles and price points that cater to a variety of lifestyles and preferences, with the focus on promoting the development of new detached single-family homes. Secondary uses include parks, recreational uses, and neighborhood churches and schools. So before you is the application received. The zoning map. As for staff recommendation, based on the staff report provided, staff recommends denial of the conditional use application for the transitional housing use at 700 Crawford Street. Here is your review criteria and the time limit and appeals process, and that will conclude my staff report.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board at this time?
Transitional zone level 2 recovery house. Transitional housing is temporary housing arrangements. Does the city monitor, what's the definition if we have one of temporary?
I would have to look that up as you guys get into this.
Or if the applicant had given you any idea of the duration that a resident would remain in the house?
No, so I received this application, I think, just after or maybe right as the last planning commission meeting was about to occur. Due to public noticing requirements, it could not be on the last agenda. I did have the applicant call me after your last planning commission meeting to want to hear what the outcome was. I let him know that I had not received the application until much later, so it would be on tonight's agenda. And that is the only communication I've had with the applicant. He was sent a meeting notice letter, and I have not heard.
Excuse me, Claire, is this equal to, I guess to help us to understand, the Hope House, both Hope Houses?
So the Hope House is a bit more comprehensive, but the Hope House, I looked at their website, they do offer part of what they offer is transitional housing, so it is not a one-off, this is a totally different entity, but it's a single-family dwelling that would be used for transitional home, sober living as
Hope House has permanent supportive housing, so they stay there until either they're removed or they move on their own, versus this is totally just another form of rehab in a sense, but it may
I'm just
have a
looking for
longer stay.
reference,
Yeah.
because we all know the Hope House, they have a female and male version of it, and then I think they even have another one right beside there. So I'm just looking for reference so we kind of understand.
Sure.
And just to confirm, you haven't received any further, like, information or clarification on, like, the needed certifications and licensure and permits and all that from the applicant?
no.
Okay.
Is it safe to infer that part of the recommendation for denial has to do with that lack of clarification on the certifications and licensure? Or is
Yes.
there, okay.
Yes.
Do we have any other questions at this time?
So, how long, is it operating right now, or is it going to operate?
To my knowledge, it is not operating.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else we can address before we go to a public hearing? No? Okay. Well, in that case, I'd like to open up the public hearing. If you would like to come forward and speak in support of this conditional use, please do so and be sworn in. Just give your name and your address, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission
I do. My name is Renee Tice, and I live at 1728 Sheffield Street here in Middletown. I am here today to speak in support of recovery housing. I work in the treatment community. I just want to say that I came out to show support specifically for this. This is someone that I know. It's an affiliate. I do not work for them. They do not have a staff. They don't have a staff yet, and they are not in attendance because they're not local. They weren't unable to come. But I spoke to them, and they asked me to speak in support, and I was happy to do that as someone who works in the SUD and mental health treatment field. This house would be ORH certified. It would be registered and licensed by the ORH, which is the Ohio Recovery Housing Agency. They have strict guidelines. It's all very regulated. All the staff is regulated. Everything that goes on in the house is strictly monitored. That's not always the case with recovery housing that is not licensed, but this will absolutely be ORH certified. They do not currently have a staff because they're waiting on all of those things to do this properly and legally. I want to impress upon the community the importance of providing safe, regulated, licensed transitional and recovery housing in Middletown. There is a serious lack of it. And we have many, many people in this population that need this type of housing. In order for them to improve their lives and, have jobs, be with their families, they need to have housing. And oftentimes, I see it in my work every day, we have to send people all the way to Cincinnati or all the way to Dayton or all the way to Columbus. I mean, far away from everyone they know and love, because we just have a lack of that type of housing in this area. And that is very difficult for someone to get their life back on track if they're not within their support system. It's imperative that we have more of that here. This house, being ORH regulated, would have 24-hour supervision. I know that the landlord is absolutely on board. He approves. He's fine with this type of transitional living in this home. Additionally, this would be locally managed, supported by local employment. That's the stress on this that I want to place, is the importance of having these types of houses available in town. I realize that it's a little controversial to have this, but when homes are ORH certified, they are strictly monitored. It's not like it was in the past when anyone could just open a recovery house and call it that. It has been cracked down on seriously, and Middletown Sober Living LLC is taking the correct steps to become licensed and do this the right way, so that it is safe and it is cost effective, and it is, it's not a detriment to the community or the city. It's an improvement. It's helping people who are most vulnerable and really need these supports. So, yeah, that's all.
I have a couple questions. I believe
Yeah.
the rest of the board probably will too. I know you're kind of speaking on behalf of the applicant. Do you
Just
do you
in
feel
support.
prepared?
Just in support. What was that?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Do you know any more details about? So, for instance, one thing I'm curious of, and this may be common to this type of transitional housing in general. Do we have an idea of how long residents would be staying here?
It's really just depends on the length of their treatment. It is a level 2 house, so anyone moving into this house has to have a period of sobriety. It isn't as though these are people that are out in active use and they're in a crisis situation. That isn't a recommendation that a clinician gives to someone in that. They go to a facility, a detox facility or something. They are not recommended to live in a transitional house. As far as the length of time that they are there, that is very case by case. It's not going to be years. Each person is not going to stay there for years. It's designed so that people can develop skills and receive treatment and build their life, and then move on to jobs and move on to, other things in the community, and not stay there permanently. Yeah. So it would be, the people living there would change.
Sure.
Yeah.
You touched on, with this level of certification, the amount of monitoring Can you touch on a little more of what exactly, like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Is that like
Yeah.
check-ins?
There
or
is
how does
someone that
work?
is employed full-time who runs the house, a house manager. That person is responsible for, they have curfews, they have drug screens, they have requirements to attend their treatment facility, you know, whatever their agreement is with their treatment program, they have to be compliant with that. They are, you know, yes, it's monitored strictly. Everything that's going on 24 hours a day is monitored by a person who is employed to make sure that everything stays, you know, above board and that it's, you know, legal and safe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Looking at the photos provided, and based off of the neighborhood, it looks like just kind of a general, what you would expect to be like a one-family home.
Yes.
Are we looking at, most likely, my assumption would be a very small number of individuals in the
Yeah.
house? Is there
It
a
would
plan?
likely be like two people per bedroom. So you're
Okay.
looking at like eight people or something like that, yeah.
6 to 8,
It's not a group home, it's.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like that.
And anything like that will be driven by the certificate of occupancy process, as well as those architectural set of plans, because just like planning and zoning has its own regulations, our chief building official has to enforce the Ohio Building Code. So anything regarding occupancy, that will all be covered during the building permit process.
Sure. Would it be possible to touch on as well with this level? You mentioned, you know, they have these checks and stuff. If an individual is not meeting the standards, how does that work as far as, they're not, I'm assuming they're not allowed to stay then?
There's a process that has to be engaged in.
Sure.
It's just like, with the new regulations from the ORC that began just at the beginning of the year, those procedures have changed. It becomes kind of a landlord-tenant situation, and that I am not authorized to speak on that because it isn't my area of expertise, but it's my understanding I recently attended an ORC panel discussion just last week, and they talked about how those regulations have changed, but they're very strict. I mean, there is a policy, a procedure of so many strikes, you're out kind of a situation, but I believe that is just dependent on whatever agreement is come to with ORH and with the specific treatment or the specific owner of the recovery housing.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions?
That just raised an
It changed me
interesting
too.
question. It does become a landlord-tenant, and an eviction could be a difficult process and lengthy and
Yeah.
contentious and adversarial. Is the ORH, first of all, let me get this certification, Ohio Recovery House?
Ohio Recovery Housing, yes. It's the board that governs the rules for recovery housing in Ohio.
Ohio Department of Health, is that the umbrella organization?
I believe so. To be honest, I couldn't tell you what the umbrella organization is for that.
Is this the only, because there's not been much communication apparently with the city to elaborate on certain specifics that need to be considered.
Right.
Obviously. Has Mr. Fisher?
It's
Who's the
Mr.
owner of the
Combs?
property?
it's Zimmerman, I believe, Esther Zimmerman. Yeah.
Has the certification process been applied for?
Yes, absolutely.
Only
Yes, it's been.
on this?
It's been, yes, they are trying to do, to my knowledge, everything above absolutely legally, yes. Everything's been filed, yes. They're being very careful because, and I will tell you, as someone who works in this field, treatment facilities are ethically required to recommend people go to homes that are ORH certified. Like you cannot recommend people go to houses that are not. So that's that's why there's a need for it. There's a shortage of those houses, and so that's why it's so imperative that we have ORH certified housing to refer people to, just to stay compliant with the ethics and the laws that we have to abide by.
So the first thing would be then, there would be two different things as far as the leasing. So is it going to be a master lease? Because the master lease, since the owner would not be operating, from my understanding, this sober living unit, then would it be the lease between the sober living and it's the people in treatment?
The lease, to my understanding, is between the LLC and the owner of the
So then
property.
that's a master lease, because then you do have to have some agreement, rental agreement for the tenants. So that would be a master lease, okay. And I say that because then the sober living would have the authority to evict, to remove the people without an eviction, because they would be handling all that information. That is good to know. The second thing is, there are actually more sober living, they're on the east end of towns.
Okay.
I applaud this person for going the proper way to apply for licensing, because the other ones, I do not believe are licensed,
Right.
and they are quite a few.
And
So that is very,
It's a concern.
Concern,
That
yes.
for us in the treatment
Yes.
community, it's a grave
Yes.
concern.
And, yeah.
Yes.
that's all I have.
Is there, and you don't have to specify, but was it impossible for the owner to be here? to
Yes,
answer these
unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
Are they out of Indiana? Is that what it appears?
No, I think it's Cleveland.
Yeah,
Does he,
I sent a letter to Cleveland.
do they have any other, like, is this their first?
Yes, yes.
Role, so they-
It's
okay,
The
that's
first,
fine.
yeah.
I guess, do we know about the staffing? Like, we know how many? I know there'll be at least one.
There will be at least one, and I think that the other will be determined. I mean, how it works is that the people that stay in the house are then, they seek treatment at facilities. So then all of their counseling and all of those things are provided at the
Okay,
treatment
so
facility that they
then
get
they would have a,
services.
there wouldn't be, the vehicle thing is an issue, because I'm looking at a residential area and parking.
They would typically not.
Not have
I
cars,
mean,
okay.
typically speaking, people in transitional housing have transportation that's usually provided either by their insurance or by their treatment facility, generally.
Are any of these residents court referrals? Criminal justice?
I could,
Or does that happen?
it does happen.
Do they qualify to reside?
They can. They do have to have, so what happens is that someone comes in, goes into a treatment facility and they get what's called an assessment. They speak with a clinician who goes through an entire process of assessing them to determine the level of care that they need and, the concerns that they have for them. The people that would live in this type of housing it would be a level 2 house. So they would have to have a certain amount of sobriety. Like someone that was just using would not be recommended for something like this. I cannot say that there would necessarily be people in the legal system that would stay there, but I can't say there wouldn't be. I mean, it's possible that they could, yeah.
If it was an acceptable program to the court?
If it's acceptable for the court and if it meets the level of care that's determined by and by their clinical assessment. Yeah. You're welcome.
Just to be clear too, so I feel like I'm getting a much better understanding of sort of maybe the type of person. I know everybody's different and different individual struggles. Is this the type of thing where, so they would be referred to here, is this something where they were kind of told you need to go, or it's you can go if you want to, because part of it is wanting, I'm assuming, to be sober? Is this something where if I'm one of the patients, I'm referred by a clinician to this type of home, can I say, like, I'm not going to do that?
Oh, absolutely. Generally speaking, people come looking for a place to live. I mean,
Okay.
it's not, people who come to treatment who have a place to live in that place, but
Gotcha.
people who need that type of kind of a, like some people call it a halfway house, so to speak.
Sure.
We do not use that verbiage, but it's recovery housing, it's transitional housing, it's sober living. It's a supportive environment of people who are experiencing the same thing that they are. And
Yeah.
it's therapeutic, it's safe, it's a place where they can work on their healing. It's peer support. Peer support is imperative in this field. You have to have people, you have to have people to support you in any type of recovery. And so this is a healing type of a place. It supports people in getting their lives back on track.
Okay.
Yes.
You may not know this, but are they exclusive to our city? Because that's another issue and concern I do have. Will they be
Exclusive to
coming
our
outside of our community?
Um,
Can we have that added, or?
I cannot say that they would or wouldn't. I mean, I think it's really just a case-by-case basis. It's possible that someone that wasn't from Middletown, but generally speaking, people want to stay in the area where they already are established. So chances are really good that mostly people living there would be people from Middletown or from Franklin or from, from adjoining cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is this group home, this specific one, going to subsist? Where is the funding?
So they are required to pay rent.
Medicaid.
Residents are.
Yes, there is a fee. Now, how much that is, I could not tell you. No, it is not no,
Insurance reimbursements?
no. That's illegal. Yeah.
Self-pay?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, there's more incentive there, too. Gotcha. Do we have any other questions? I think I'm good. Thank you for,
You're welcome.
for your
Thank you.
time and for answering our many questions.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right, we will continue with the public hearing. If there's anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this conditional use, please come forward and identify yourself. Oh, are you wishing to speak in favor or in opposition? Okay, we'll do that one in just a sec. Thank you. So seeing no response to speak in support, we will move to anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Yes, sorry. Please come forward and be sworn in.
Ma'am, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God, yes.
Identify yourself if you would, please.
Okay. First of all, I couldn't hear a word you guys were saying because my sister and I are hard of hearing. I wanted to make sure she hears me. Could you hear me? Could you hear me? Yeah. Well, anyway.
Could you please, before you continue, could you identify yourself for us, please? Your name and address.
My name is Christine Bagazitas Reisner, and I reside at 703 Crawford Street, directly across from 700 Crawford Street.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I've got a couple pictures of my house. I'm sorry I didn't bring the good ones.
That's okay.
This is my yard in the spring. And this is my mother's roses.
Beautiful.
And this is my mother. This is my front porch. And this is my mother when she was pulling peaches off the pitch. And
We have
Did you want us to consider those, ma'am?
yes, I did because I wanted you to know that I'm opposed to changing the code.
Can we get them scanned or?
We'll deal with
And it's necessary because we have maintained this property for over 80 years. And we've taken care of the whole section. My mother even swept the streets. And the day she was pulling weeds out in front of the house in the hot sun, she had a stroke and passed away. And what I'm here for is why, all of a sudden, after 80 years, have they decided to change the zoning code? Middletown's full of vacant houses and buildings. Why don't they use one of those buildings that's already coded for this facility? Why are they coming in our block, which is R-4, that has been a residential area for as long as I've lived there, and my father purchased the property in 1946, and the realtor owned it. He owned the property, and he lived at 700 Crawford Street. And he wanted the property because our house had a lot and a half, and he wanted to build a grocery store on the half lot. The city refused him because they told him it wasn't zoned. So he had a family with 6 children, and I can't understand they denied him to change the code, and all of a sudden, they're changing the code, for someone else. And I noticed it said it had parking. There's no parking for this 700 Crawford. They have a small driveway that accommodates 2 vehicles. And if people think they're going to park in front of their house, they're wrong. I live next door to one single dwelling house that was converted into 2 apartments, and they've taken over the street. I don't know how many times I have come home and my brother's on oxygen. I'm elderly. My sister lived with me for 6 months and she had a stroke, and we couldn't many times park in front of the house. And I can't understand where these people are going to park. And I notice the city owns the lot next to 700 Crawford. Are they going to convert that into parking spaces for this house? It's mind-boggling to me. And our block is safe. And I don't know how many people have told us, your block is the only decent block on Crawford. And my sister told me not to say this. I was at her house on Mother's Day, and her neighbor came up to me and said, I heard you had a beautiful home, and I want to come and see it. And that's the truth. I'm taking up for not only me, but for my neighbors. I don't know what else to say. But why don't the city find a place other than across the street from me? And can I ask you a question? Put your hand up if you want your neighborhood zoning changed, or you want this facility across the street from you. See your hands? 1 hand. Good. 2 hands. Then they can move in your neighborhood and you can volunteer.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to come forward and speak in opposition? If so, please come forward and identify yourself. Seeing no response, I will close the public hearing. We can move to deliberation.
If I may, just real briefly.
Please.
I want to just redirect the board to the review criteria for conditional use approval. Those items outlined there, as well as the additional criteria and conditions. I think a lot of what some of the discussion has been centered on is perhaps the nature of the residents or the folks occupying this particular property. And while that is informative to the general public and maybe of interest, it's not really the basis upon which the board would consider approval or denial in this circumstance. So just with that as a general context, I would welcome you all to engage in the deliberations that you have.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
go along with the counselor. We also have to consider under the other departments. I don't think we have enough information. First of all, we don't have the certifications, the licensing that is required to be here. And I would ask that the city planner, since this is a treatment facility, even though it's a level 2 treatment facility, has the health department, being Mrs. Carter, been notified about this? And then also to go along with what the counselor just said about, we've heard both sides of this, but this is really about the building and the use, and is it allowed to be in there? And that goes where my area is which is the building department. We have no architecturals, we have no permits being pulled, so we have no idea. This is a single family dwelling. I'm assuming like a 3-bedroom, maybe 1.5, 2 baths, that's going to have to be converted with security systems, with door locks, and everything that goes along with a facility like this. This is a treatment facility, and keep in mind that the 2 places that I mentioned as referral, Both Hope Houses are in residential areas in Middletown, and they function there, and we don't have a lot of problems there, and Chief Nelson, in his reports, don't say that's an issue having those there. So we do have them in residential areas, so they're near people's homes or near their family. So that's one thing we have to consider. So my suggestion, non-voting member, would be that we table it until we get the needed information for you to vote properly. That's just a suggestion.
Thank you.
I can confirm that I had our health commissioner review this. We have been holding meetings once a month, about a week prior to this meeting, to kind of round table on here's what's going to be before the planning commission, and that's where we generate those other department comments instead of just an email out, because it is a bit more face-to-face direct. She did not have any comments at this time. That's not to say she won't have any going forward.
Sure.
I would echo what Mr. Horn's recommendation. I think there are too many variables that I appreciate his proxy being here to answer what she could, but there are some specific details that need to be nailed down before I think we can give this. Truthfully, if the owner comes in and has his ducks in a row, a group home, no, this isn't a group home, this is transitional housing. Transitional housing.
Sober living.
Sober living looks as to be a viable option, but I think there are just too many unknowns.
And
So I'll wait for other discussion before I make a motion.
Sure.
I think we all seem to be at least mostly in agreement about the ambiguity. I am in support. I think there is a great need in this town for this, but as far as the specific location, there's just too much ambiguity. So I'm also in favor of a table.
I think especially by, as council mentioned, maybe the nature of the group or the people running this can be maybe a little controversial, even though that's not part of kind of what our decision is, especially if we're going to be approving this. I know there are things in the past where we've approved with conditions, but I would also very much like to see more concrete before we give a yes or no. Do anyone else have any comments, or do we have a motion?
I will make a motion that this application, case number
1125.
1125, thank you, be continued to the June meeting, and that the planning department emphasize to the extent that the planning department can, emphasize the importance of the applicant being present.
I'll second that.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Just to confirm, a yes is a yes to continue. Mr. Mentel?
Yes.
Mr. Shanlin?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Yes. Mr. Cash?
Yes.
And Ms. Ramsey Hunter?
Yes.
All right. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing for a map amendment, zone change, and preliminary development plan, which is a request by Bill Morton of Leo Brown Group. And Ms. Benninger, can you please take us through this?
Yes. So this is a preliminary development plan, which includes that map amendment for a 124-unit assisted living facility that will have amenities, including dining options, a movie theater, fitness center, library, chapel, activity center, and game center, as well as an 150-unit multifamily apartments to be constructed on the parcel listed. The parcel is a total of 10.79 acres. With the proposal, the applicant requests waivers from Table 1204-3, and the project will require approval by City Council for the plan development map amendment. Getting into the property background, the subject property is a vacant 10.793 acre parcel. The last sale date of the property was March 4th of 2025. Currently, there is right-of-way on the northern edge of the property, but there is no existing road. Hendrickson Road would need to be continued from its stub for roadway access. Additionally, the right-of-way that currently exists does not match the width needed to match the width of the right-of-way that is known as Hendrickson Road. Additional consideration is needed regarding public roadway improvements and the involvement of private property owners north of the proposed development to ensure that right-of-way is increased. The subject property is currently zoned I-1. The purpose of the I-1 Industrial Park District is to provide areas for the development of industrial uses that have a minimum impact upon the surrounding environment. The district is primarily designed to accommodate the retention and expansion of existing industrial type uses, which can be operated in a clean and quiet manner, subject only to those regulations and performance standards necessary to prohibit congestion and for the protection of adjacent residential and business activity areas. Getting into the staff analysis, the plan unit development will feature all those amenities and uses listed. The assisted living facility will have 3 floors with just over 93 gross square footage. Of the 124 units, 89 units will be 1-bedroom units with 525 square footage of living space, and 35 units will be studio units with just under 400 square footage of living space. The development also proposes 6 3-story apartment buildings with a total of 144, my public notice went out before I got the amended application. So it will be 144 units of the remaining 5.5 acres of the property. The development itself, just that anchored use, so the assisted living facility, is expected to bring approximately $2.2 million in annual payroll, according to the applicant's project narrative, by staffing 50 total employees in the clinical, food service, sales, marketing, and facility maintenance disciplines. Per the Middletown Development Code, Table 1204-3, both skilled nursing or personal care facilities, as well as multifamily dwellings, use types are prohibited in the I-1 zoning district, so this is where that waiver comes into play. The definitions of personal care facilities, skilled nursing, and skilled nursing facilities are all in your packets. I will not read those. You guys are pretty familiar with the Plan Development District purpose, but the purpose of it is really to design for those slight deviations from the certain zoning standards that would otherwise apply to allow for a more creative development. And the applicant is proposing a plan development district that exceeds that minimum acreage requirement, and there is more than one use and more than one building associated with that plan development district. Getting into site development standards, the I-1 zoning district's site development standards are as follows. The proposed building elevations showing the heights of the various buildings were not received in the preliminary development plan submittal, so the applicant will need to submit sufficient plans to be reviewed for compliance with the regulations set forth in Table 1204-5 and Chapter 1204 in general of the Middletown Development Code. The applicant's site plan shows the building setbacks are in compliance with the site development standards set forth in the I-1 zoning district, so really what comes into play is that maximum building height. Getting into the architectural standards, the standards of the section apply for multifamily dwellings that have more than 4 dwelling units. Building elevations were not received for multifamily dwellings. However, the orientation of the 6 proposed apartment buildings are not in compliance with Chapter 121003, Part A, Part 2, Part A. The applicant proposes to orient the main entrances of the apartment buildings to the internal parking lot as shown in the site plan, rather than towards a public street. Further information is needed regarding the proposed building materials and design to confirm if any additional waivers would be requested from Chapter 1210, as no building elevations were received. For the multifamily dwellings and proposed building materials were not identified in the conceptual renderings received for the assisted living facility. As for lighting, we would still need a lighting plan to ensure they are meeting Chapter 1208 of the Middletown Development Code. Same with landscaping. Parking was identified. I counted all those parking spaces on the site plan. So for multifamily dwellings, there is a requirement of 1.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit, requiring a total of 216 off-street parking spaces for the 144 multifamily units. Group living use category, all use types, including the type here, has a parking space requirement of 1 space per 2 beds, requiring a total of 62 off-street spaces for 124 units. The development may provide up to 10% less parking spaces without needing an administrative waiver or variance approval. So the applicant proposes just under 2% reduction in the parking spaces for the multifamily component. That is within that 10% where a waiver or a variance is not needed. The number of parking spaces proposed for the assisted living facility is 71, which exceeds our requirement of 62 parking spaces. As for signage, no signage plans were received with the preliminary development plan submittal, so those will need to be reviewed in compliance with Chapter 1220 of the Middletown Development Code. Getting into the public noticing, public notice was listed in the newspaper for at least 30 days prior to this meeting, as well as all property owners within 200 feet of this subject property did receive letters. One public comment was received at this time, a phone call from a resident who saw the legal ad in the newspaper and just asked for the location of the proposed development as it's not tied to an address. The resident spoke in neither opposition nor support of the request. Getting into the other department comments, City Management Office noted that further discussions are needed regarding the intended public roadway improvements and public infrastructure for this proposed development. If Hendrickson Road is not constructed to city standards finishing Hendrickson Road, substantial frontage improvements must be made to the applicant's western property line. All public roadway and infrastructure discussions must be finalized prior to the final development plan approval. And I think that should be northern property line, so I apologize on that. Community and Economic Development Department noted that clarification is needed on the LIHTC ratio that would be proposed for the multifamily component as well as the assisted living component of the development. And LIHTC is an acronym for Low Income Housing Tax Credit that is driven through the federal government. Further explanation on the continued ownership of the property following construction is desired to ensure the property remains well maintained. The renderings of the proposed construction give the appearance of an institutional building, not senior assisted living. Provide the income qualifications that will be used for this development. There's opportunity to consider other uses that could be named for this planned development, such as commercial uses. The project narrative includes payroll information, what will be the requirements / qualifications of staff. As for public works and engineering, a traffic impact study will be required, and a stormwater management plan will be required. The health department asked, has a market study been completed to ensure the proposed uses are needed within the city of Middletown? Additionally, there are concerns about maintenance following construction as well as into the future. The building division noted that what is the proposed internal access for seniors within the apartments and assisted living facility? Seniors often cannot climb 3 flights of stairs, and a sprinkler system will be needed in the assisted living facility. As for Middletown Comprehensive Plan, the 2022 future land use map indicates the property in question is located in the regional mixed use land use category, which is defined as primary commercial uses that cater to the I-75 traffic, and the regional market with secondary uses that include office, medical, service, and residential. Getting into the supplemental documents before you is the application, the letter of intent, the most recent site and floor plan layout, elevations of the assisted living facility, floor plans, some property photos. There's not a lot for you. As for staff recommendation, staff recommends approval of the anchor of the planned development district, the assisted living facility, but recommends reconsideration of the multifamily component and propose different uses for the remainder of the acreage. Here is your review criteria, and that will conclude my staff report.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board for staff before we continue on?
I have one. Is in this consideration, I know this is like down the road a little bit, but since Hendrickson would actually go through, would it be considered to run it all the way through to Braille?
That would be discussions to have with Public Works as well as
It's just the
city
thought.
management.
It'd be another way to have egress
It does
going into
have
Braille.
It has a two-side, it does open up in their map.
Hendrickson is intended to be completed. I don't know if it will be, how it will work out with
Right.
city.
This might be an
or-
opportunity.
Yeah.
Can I ask you to reread staff's recommendation, the last, okay, here it is. But recommends reconsideration of the multifamily component and proposed different uses that
So you're for the.
the commission, oh,
I see
that
what
the
you mean.
commission proposed different uses?
That the applicant.
Applicant proposed different uses.
I probably could have put the app.
No, that's okay.
Sorry.
The way I read it, it kind of indicated that the onus was on us.
Nope, that's on me.
No, the
That's on me,
prerogative, I
that's on
should
me for
say.
being more clear on
Okay,
that.
that's all right, thank you.
So you're okay with the senior living, which is directly next to the other senior living, but it's the multifamily because of everything that's not done. The unknowns is a big factor.
Right,
That's, okay.
right.
Just to be clear as well, we have the assisted living and the apartments next to it, which I'm assuming the applicant is here, can probably clear that up
The
as
applicant
well.
is present.
These would be normal, just apartments? Or are these also intended to be kind of senior living apartments?
So this is where, this part really matters is the city cannot control who those apartments are rented to.
Sure.
Could they be intended for seniors? Sure. And the applicant has confirmed when we met with the applicant that they would be meant, it would kind of be like a phased approach. You move into the apartments, you then move into the assisted living, and then you go into Arlington Point.
Yeah, in which case, with having the amenities there, it's sort of, you're becoming part of the community.
I don't know if you're just living in the apartments, if you can use the amenities that would then be featured at the assisted living facility.
These are, we can direct these to, yeah. But anything else before we move on?
I think there's a nursing home right
It is.
Arlington Point.
Mr. Chairman, a question maybe you asked them is like Otterbein, where they have the phasing system where you start at a house and then you go to the apartments and then you finally end up at the assisted living, and that's how that whole campus works.
Sure. Okay.
It's limited to people 55 and over. Yeah.
Are we ready to move to a public hearing? Okay. In that case, we will move to the public hearing. If you would wish to speak in support of this, please come forward and be sworn in.
Hello. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Identify yourself.
Bill Morton, Leo Brown Group, 12411 North Pennsylvania, Carmel, Indiana. Just to clarify some components, could we show the site plan? So the assisted living component is really designed to complement the nursing facility next door. As you all may or may not know, nursing care is 24/7 care. A lot of times folks are, 85 or older, typically bedridden, or, again, 24/7 care. The assisted living would be one level of care lighter than that. So these folks are very mobile. They just need assistance with 3 daily activities. Could be putting their clothes on, cooking dinner, medication, administration, that kind of thing. So in the community, it'll be very much really like a hotel resort type environment with everything from a pub to a chapel to a hair salon, that type of thing. So I just wanted to clarify that because it is, a lot of times the nomenclature is a little different. personal care home and personal care facility in Ohio. I'm coming from Indiana. We use senior living and assisted living typically. And just for background, our group, based out of the Indianapolis area, we do lots of this. We currently operate 26 facilities like this, 7 in Ohio, handful in metropolitan Cincinnati, Columbus. We've got one near Otterbein. Someone mentioned Otterbein. In Lebanon, it's called Traditions of Lebanon. So those are all market rate, and the intention here is to be affordable assisted living. And the difference with the affordable assisted living is everyone can afford it. The positive of affordable assisted living is it's regulated through OFA, through the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. So they approve our application, and they will dictate the quality of the construction. We have 2 projects in architectural review with them right now. So to be able to get the federal tax credits, we have to be pushed through OFA, and there is a compliance period of 15 years that we cannot sell the facility. So that assures the community that it will be well maintained. It will be maintained by an affiliate of our company, Traditions Management. So if you would go to the website, you'd see about 26 facilities, mainly Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan. So that would be the entity managing. It would be guaranteed ownership for the 15-year compliance period. We're also the general contractor. So been around about 20 years. The construction company is called Grand Contracting, and common ownership between the partners, just construction arm over here and management arm over here. I want to try to give you as much information as I could very quickly because I know it's a long meeting. We're really excited about this site mainly because of the access here and the skilled nursing facility. When we identified the site, it was not for sale. We contacted the owner of the nursing facility, dealt with him directly. He actually does own one of the parcels directly to the north, so we do think piecing the road together will be reasonably convenient, I guess. But high-quality nursing facility, and these folks will be coming from Middletown, and everyone would be able to afford it. And then as they age, ideally they would, they could go next door if that level of care is needed. I'll pause. I just wanted to give you lots of information. Any questions?
My initial question is, so I understand that the assisted living facility is affordable, but is that the same for the multifamily apartments? Is that intended to be affordable?
That's the intention. Affordable LIHTC is a different asset class. It's kind of complicated. So the intention at this point would be for workforce housing, so 60% units. And what that means is the residents would be at, up to 60, they could earn up to 60% of the area median income, which we think that's around $48,000. So it's not Section 8. To be 3-story wood construction, no elevator, walk up. So wouldn't necessarily be directed towards seniors at this time, but it's preliminary. The assisted living building would have 2 elevators, so it's definitely an ADA compliant, 100%. You have to be 65 to move in. On the other piece, we're just kind of we're still really in planning, but we'd like to get the units approved to kind of have a cohesive.
So it's undetermined whether the 6 multifamily units will be open to the general public.
Correct.
I mean, it could be any one of us who wants, well, I would fit into the assisted living area, but one of these guys here, if they wanted to move in with their family, at this point in time,
that is correct.
Criteria
So
hasn't been determined.
we have communicated with some other developers that we know, because it's 10 acres. We do not need 10 acres. Ideally, it's another party, which would, pay for the road. The road is not inexpensive.
No, I can imagine.
So we were just trying to piece it all together. The assisted living definitely will come first. We intend to apply to OFA October, late September, early October. Staff has been great. We've met multiple times. We came in person about a month ago, had a couple phone calls, had the whole team at the table, and we talked through the road. And, we're full-time developers, so we're committed to figuring out and really developing to the standards necessary. Really, the ask is to, more for the use, from my understanding. at this meeting.
So the compliance period requires 15 years of corporate ownership of,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the,
So
of this entire development?
There's myself and 3 other general partners in the development. We all personally,
Not a franchise
no,
operation.
we all personally agreed to hold the building for 15 years.
And s- Go ahead. Go ahead, and then I'll remember what I was asking.
sure?
I'm sure.
So I know you're applying for LICA for the assisted living. Is that possible, or at least with the apartments, are you wanting them fair market rate? Like, do we have any idea?
question.
That makes a big impact with the 3 buildings.
I think still to be determined. We have seen a lot of need. We did get a market study for the assisted living piece. Already received that. We looked at the incomes and the population, and 60% units, again, that's the $40,000 to $50,000 per year. A lot of times that caters to young service workers. It could be nurse, policemen, firemen, single parents, parents with 2 or 3 children. So we're still trying to figure that part out. So it has not been determined.
I just
And we're open to her suggestion, of multiple uses too. We're open to it. I think retail there would be tough, because you see the retail just,
Yeah.
it's vacant. But some kind of a medical office, we'd be open to a lot of those. We think there could be a need, we think there's a need for the housing, but,
Okay. You asked my
did
question.
I answer your question? Okay, sorry, that's good.
Just to piggyback off of that, so you guys are open to adapting more uses in with the apartments? I know you just said that the retail.
We are. Really, we really wanted to get the assisted living was what triggered the meeting. And when we started talking, like, what's gonna happen on this remaining, 6 acres? Because it is a bigger site than we typically would want. And we care about what happens there too. We would like for it to be developed to get the road connected, so. But open, yes.
So just to be clear, at least as currently what we're looking at, it's sort of 2 separate entities then. So not so much of thinking it as like, I mean, realistically, I could move into the apartments years down the line. I can move into the assisted living. But as it currently states, it doesn't seem like maybe the expectation would be me and my family live in the apartments, and then we're going to go over to the salon that's within the facility of like the campus of the assisted living. Does that seem fair?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for the applicant?
Questions?
I just recommend that you really think about finding a partner, or even if a different plan for the apartment, the units, because that is needed in that area. So definitely work on
In terms of, sorry,
the housing.
is needed in this area?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. We agree, yeah. I think it could be a good, cohesive development.
I don't have any further questions.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you. If there's anyone else wishing to speak in support,
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
This is probably one of the reasons why I volunteered or was asked to be on this group. You've seen, the short time I've been here, the beginning of someone's residential life to not the end of their life, but toward the end of their not moving around so much. This is density that we need. Even though we have multiple ones, and it's nice that we do have multiple ones in our city, but our city is an older, hard-working, blue-collar city. And the fact that they're coming in with something that everyone can afford is something that I think, as a council representative, would be definitely for, and I think city council, for the most part, once they hear all the information, would be also for this. It's kind of exciting that, you have a facility right beside a facility, and then also the potential of being able to open up another road to do a connector between Braille and Cincinnati Dayton Road. And again, with the questions of the other property. So my for this is definitely for the assisted living, because also what keeps the lights on in here is employment tax. And we know that nurses and doctors, they get paid a little bit more than folks who work at franchises. Nothing wrong with working a franchise. But that's also what we're looking at. So I'm looking at the business side of this. But I think this is something that the more we can help our older folks to stay in the city that they have lived the majority of their lives and make it affordable for them. Because as we know, even though we're trying to help at the county level, this crushing property tax with people living on fixed incomes is not helping. So this might be an option, especially if they're older in their age, that they can have a facility, have activities, and have things help them through their lives. I think that's something that we need to really consider. And we'll get more information on the other property. Makes sense. Just side point I have a client that her and her husband, they're very still mobile. They just didn't want a house anymore. And it was exactly that same setup. It was assisted living, and then they had like condos, single-story condos, but then it had walking paths to that. So there's always great possibilities for that phasing in one's life where you're still mobile, and you still want to be mobile, and then you move over to the other facility. So I just want to speak that we need this more density to help our older folks as we continue to grow and add living spaces to our city.
Thank you. If there's anyone else wishing to speak in support, please come forward and be sworn in. All right, seeing no response, I will now ask if there is anyone wishing to speak in opposition to please come forward and be sworn in. All right, seeing no response, I will close the public hearing and we'll move to deliberation.
I agree with everything Mr. Horn said. I think adding on to what he said, his anecdotes of his friends that are a couple and they just simply no longer want to keep up with the house. I think that speaks to, with my experience in the community, that speaks a lot to, there are a lot of elderly folks who don't really want to care for their property in the way that they have. There are plenty that do, but by transitioning, by taking this step into assisted living and then into the end of life care at other facilities, it does open up more housing stock for young folks in the town, which I think is another plus on top of the housing stock in the multifamily apartments. But that's my 2 cents.
There's very few apartments in that area. Can I ask staff a question? Claire, this is a request for a zoning map amendment.
And
With all of
a preliminary development plan.
and a preliminary development plan. There was a lot of deficiencies, not deficiencies, but unknowns, I think, and it was this.
Right, so
Yeah. So there are a lot of code requirements that need to be satisfied.
Right, so if they are not modified through the plan development process, they have to then be held to the standard of our zoning regulations as they submit for their permits. So a landscaping plan would be required, a lighting plan would be required, a signage plan will be required. All that stuff that they didn't submit is then subject to the full regulations unless they go for a variance.
Go for variance.
Yeah.
For instance, the one request here is that the buildings, the 6 buildings don't face the public street.
That would be modified through the plan development process.
That's not what we're not considering that. We're considering,
That is something for you to consider. So they're asking for, I think, 2 total waivers. One
okay,
to allow
it was a waiver request.
Yeah, to allow for the uses to be permitted in the base zoning where it is not permitted. So, yep. Okay, so I have them marked with those little arrow bullets.
Yep,
And then getting into
that one.
the architectural standards, so they are asking for those apartment buildings not to be oriented towards a
So-
public street.
So our motion to approve the application for the zoning map amendment would include
Yes,
these as being
yes.
granted.
And I think even as submitted, because that is called out
Yeah,
in the staff report.
thank you.
I think Mr. Cash does bring up some good points. I mean, by my estimations, like the lighting, landscaping, signage, plans all need, submitted, a traffic impact study, stormwater management, staffing certifications. I don't think that's anything to overlook, no matter how much, like, in favor I am for it. Should we, like, table it, give them more time to get back to us, or does the PD, the plan development, like, circumvent those needs? Or I just want
So-
to make sure I understand.
This is a preliminary development plan, so they might not want to spend X amount of dollars on getting all those plans together if they're not going to be approved.
Okay.
Question, Claire. So this being preliminary, which we've done this before, this goes to city council, and then we send it back to them for final. Is it-
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So at your final development plan stage, you should be expecting to see pretty much everything listed. Signage is usually different. That's pretty easy to meet those requirements, so you might not see that. But landscaping, I would be disheartened just to not see that included. Lighting, that's pretty big, especially because there is residential surrounding, so you would want to make sure that it's not impacting surrounding areas.
What about correcting the building orientation, the 6 apartment buildings?
That is up to you guys on how you would want to send it to council. Council makes the ultimate determination on if they want to uphold your recommendation, also add additional criteria, such as that, stuff like that.
I'd be interested if, if that was reasonable or feasible for them to do that, in a cost-effective way. Like, would that inhibit them from doing what they're trying to do?
Could you pull up, please, the image that has the apartment buildings there? Thank you. So what we're looking at then is on the kind of the perpendicular, I guess, going up and down here is where these entrances are instead of going towards Hendrickson, or what would be
Right.
continuation of Hendrickson.
Right, because unless they're going to all be interior walkways, the walkways would be facing, you would be coming from your car to go into each apartment building. Maybe the walkways are right here where that indent is at. I don't know. I didn't get any elevations, so I cannot
So
confirm
to
that.
the east and west, is that? Yes. Okay,
If that's oriented to the north, and it is.
yes. Okay. Just wanted to be clear. Would it be preferred for us to make two separate, could we make like two separate motions, or he's making one motion for both of these waivers?
It's one application, so make
it has to be just the
one,
one.
please.
Okay.
I mean, personally, I'm in favor of granting both. I think that personally, I find the doors facing the road, if that's going to inhibit the amount of units that are able to be built, I would rather have more housing stock that doesn't face the road than not having the housing stock. I think that might be a little arbitrary, but
So there are additional considerations for the architectural standards for multifamily dwellings. There isn't a picture in our development code that has what is desired for the city and also what is not desired. This orientation meets what is not desired.
okay.
And Mr. Chairman, you can vote however you want to vote, but you can always send notes to us saying, it's approved, but that's why we have you, we want this, we want the orientation, we want this, we want this, we want this. And this is per our approval, like you've done in the past. So you can, she has to write everything down anyways, but just put whatever notes you want, send it to us, and then we'll take it under consideration, then we'll send it back to you.
Understood. Any other thoughts from the board before we make a motion?
I really think we should,
Can you speak up? Sorry.
we should really include the residential part along with assisted living. I think that's very important for our growth and also for the new development with any future endeavors they may want to with us.
Thank you. Do we have any other thoughts or opinions in regard to the portion being the orientation of the apartments?
We don't even know that Henderson Road is going to be extended.
That's true.
So having it facing Henderson Road seems a little hard. But I think that the layout that here, I mean, looks pretty good to me.
So can you touch on the part of this where I know it was at the beginning of the application. So dealing with the extension of Hendrickson, is this as part of the plan development, will it be required to be the continuation of the public road there, or is there a world where this is a private road that just goes into this facility? Does it have to?
That would probably be something that you could incorporate as some of your conditions for approval there, is to have that be, dedicated and become a public road there.
To include its joinder with South Brill?
It'd probably be subject to the county engineer doing a traffic study and
I
yeah.
understand that, but if we make that a requirement in this map amendment that they be responsible for the road, I guess, the roadway to include Brill, because it's obvious that there needs to be a dual access to this complex from Brill as well as Cincinnati Dayton Road.
Yes.
Is that, so we, okay.
Because they already have to, it stops right there before it
I think Mr.
enters.
Morton wants to.
So they have to make the road anyway, because from what I'm knowing and seeing, there is no road at all.
No.
Correct,
no.
so they have, yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Please.
Morton.
So really, the intent was, without the multifamily units, was to extend Hendrickson to, say, the property line, to city standards, public road, sidewalks, lights, the whole thing. And then as the second parcel's developed, that would be done. Ideally, it might happen all at once, but it is a financial burden to put $3 million in our budget, whatever the number is, to extend all of it. So that's part of the reason the multifamily units are there. And to the orientation, we're open to studying that. We do have an architect on staff. Part of the reason we're oriented like this, we didn't think, from the road, you'd want to see asphalt and as many vehicles. And so there is kind of an art to maneuvering the pieces to keep the density. So we're open to studying that. And
I concur with you on that. If the side of the building is there's much less volume on the side.
And it can be landscaped, and it would be fiber cement siding, so hardy plank, if you're familiar with that term, what they use in craftsman style homes now. And it'd be pitched roof, so it would be dressed up with some architectural components. But, okay, back to the road, that was really the intent, so I just wanted to let you know that.
So it is your intent, if the residential buildings are constructed.
Yes.
That
Hendrickson connects to
extend,
Brill.
Connect with.
Yes.
Subject to all the requirements
Yeah.
of road building.
We would anticipate breaking ground on the assisted living piece probably less than a year from now, so probably March, April of next year. And then when that goes, say the road goes to the halfway point, and then when the other piece would go, the road would connect through. Could all happen at once, but that's a lot of moving parts.
And that's something also the planning commission you can get into the phasing of that connection as part of your recommendation, should you choose to recommend approval.
Sure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, any additional comments with this new knowledge? No? Okay, well, I guess I'll make a motion to approve with the condition that we can hash out the wording, but that the road be constructed to Middletown's standards And then it can be done in 2 phases. Does that sound acceptable to the board?
I would second that motion.
To coincide with the construction.
Yeah, of each
various
half of the
phases
development.
the housing.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Anybody seconding?
Yeah,
or-
I
Okay.
second that.
All right, Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Mentel?
Yes.
Mr. Shanlin?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
And Ms. Ramsey Hunter?
Yes.
Moving right along. Next item is a public hearing for a right-of-way dedication plat, which is a request by Westheimer Real Estate. Ms. Vinegar, can you please take us through this?
Yes, this is for the dedication of just under 2 acres of right-of-way and associated public improvements to the city of Middletown. The dedication plat includes the vacation of a temporary turnaround easement and a 60-foot wide access and utility easement. This will be forwarded to city council. For background, the proposed right-of-way dedication of Made Industrial Drive is an extension of a previous right-of-way dedication plat approved by the Planning Commission in November 9th, 1979. And the City Commission, now known as City Council, on November 20th of 1979, according to plat number 863 on Butler County Recorder's plat database. The original plat dedicated just under 2.5 acres of land as right-of-way. The current plat will request a dedication of additional 1.958 acres of right-of-way, equating to a total of 4.386 acres of right-of-way to make up Made Drive, or also known as Made Industrial Drive. For staff analysis, the proposed right-of-way dedication plan submitted by Westheimer Real Estate designates the existing private portion of Made Industrial Drive as public right-of-way. The dedication plat also vacates 2 existing easements, a temporary turnaround easement and an access and utility easement as shown by the cross-hatched shading on the plat. It is desirable for both the property owner and the city to clarify ownership and remove the road from the county tax records. The plat appears to be complete and has been deemed acceptable by the City Public Works Director. Following approval of the proposed plat, the accepted improvements must be adopted and endorsed by City Council prior to recording. Now, looking at Community and Economic Development Department's comments on this, the dedication of the plat will add street frontage along the front of the western undeveloped parcel, which will aid in further subdivision of that parcel for future development. Public Works and Engineering Department stated that the road is built to city standard and has always intended to be dedicated. Here is the proposed dedication plat. As for staff recommendation, staff recommends approval. There's not great review criteria. This is the best I could find for a major subdivision. So before you is your review criteria, and that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff before moving to public hearing?
So just in layman's terms, this is the transition of a private drive into a public drive?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? No? All right, this time I'll open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak in favor, please come forward and be sworn in. Seeing no response, we will continue on. If you would like to speak in opposition, please come forward and be sworn in. Seeing no response, I will close the public hearing. Do we have any deliberation?
Seems pretty straightforward.
Yep. I would make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Mentel?
Yes.
Mr. Shanlin?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Yes. Mr. Cash?
Yes.
And Ms. Ramsey Hunter?
Yes.
All right. Before going on, just want to check, we've been here a little bit. Is anyone in need of a brief recess before continuing on? Okay. If that's all right, then it's 7:28. Let's say we will begin again at 7:36. Does that seem fair? Okay. Take a brief recess.
she had her right knee replaced on Monday, so she's not here today. She's okay. She's fine. She's doing. Did you, by the way, I was going to ask you. Vinegar, is that a new name? Okay. Well, I've never looked at your hand, so.
That's what I asked her too, yeah. I mean, I guess I assume, but yeah, I don't know. Other stuff happens, I don't know.
Oh, the married,
Yeah, a year and a half ago.
no issue.
Well, that's the kind of, there's such a process, I get it. I was on her, we were kind of lucky. My wife was, we got married right before her first year of teaching. So for her, it was very easy just to,
I just got mine.
she was able to go start as the new one and,
However,
yeah.
it has my
Changing
maiden name in
midstream,
it, so
yeah.
I have
Is
to
it-
change that.
Oh, it's like
because- Well, I'm gonna
losing
keep
all
it
your
the married, because I'm
passwords.
actually going.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
reinserting
So that's why I kept-
if you don't have a means to
yeah.
transfer them automatically.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
My boss, she professionally is one name and socially
Ramsey,
is
it'll go back
completely
there.
her married name. So it's kind of funny whenever I talk to people who know her, I can immediately know from which realm they associate.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's professional or social.
Yeah, yeah. We will get started again here in just a minute.
I forgot to tell him I don't have my phone.
All right. Call us back into order. We are on case number 14-25, which is a request by applicant Hallmark Student Development Company and engineer Bayer Becker for a final development plan approval. Ms. Benninger, can you please take us through it?
Yes, so this is for Gateway Lofts at Renaissance Point to be constructed on the southwestern section of the previously approved preliminary development plan for Renaissance Point. For property background, the proposed development is approximately 8.12 acres. The final development plan proposed to be located in the west/southwest corner of the development and current lots 4 and 5 of the Renaissance Point plat that was approved by Planning Commission on October 29th of 23 and by City Council on November 21st of 23. In the preliminary development plan's project narrative, under apartments slash multifamily residential, well-crafted Class A apartments and multifamily residential uses were planned for the west side of the development. The project narrative further stated 4 stories of units were planned over ground level retail or restaurant uses, with the largest of 3 apartments buildings to be directly west of the event center, flanked by 2 smaller buildings. The narrative lastly stated that the parking would be available to tenants with surface lots as well as basement or garden level lots below the apartment buildings. And the important disclaimer in the project narrative noted that the preliminary development plan was still a work in progress, and the final development plans for each site will vary from the preliminary plan. The subject property is currently zoned BCHP, which was adopted by City Council in 23. And here is the site plan from the ordinance itself, as well as the project narrative highlighting the I included the wrong narrative. Sorry about that. But the full narrative is in your staff packet. So The proposed project will be a total of 288 multifamily units with a total of 7 three-story apartment buildings equating to a density of 29.68 units per acre. The buildings will be set back at least 15 feet from Middle Drive, Event Promenade, Atrium Boulevard, and Union Road. The maximum height of the apartment building, including the architectural features, will be approximately 37 feet and 7 inches. Of the 288 units, there will be a total of 36 efficiency units, also known as studio units, with a square footage of 460 per unit. 210 one-bedroom units ranging in square footage from just under 600 square feet to 785 square feet per unit, and 42 two-bedroom units with a square footage of 988 square feet per unit. The applicant is requesting a minimum square foot, a reduction in the square foot livable area per dwelling unit for those efficiency units, as the minimum square footage requirements for multifamily dwellings is 500 square feet of livable floor area per dwelling unit. The apartment buildings will have facades comprised of brick, board and batten siding, fiber cement panels, and vinyl siding. The first story above ground of each apartment building is proposed to be wrapped in brick in compliance with the architectural standards. All other architectural standards for multifamily dwellings with over 4 dwelling units, the chapter listed there, are complied with, including the required architectural features such as, oh gosh, I cannot think right now. It's complied with. I'll just go with that. Oh, there it is. With a parapet wall with a cornice, recessed entries for all units, and covered porches and balconies. Building type A also features an architectural pilaster. Building type A, there are 2 of the 7 apartment buildings will feature the following percentages of building materials on all facades: 52% face brick, 29% vinyl siding, and 19% fiber cement panels. Building type B, 5 of the 7 apartment buildings will feature the following percentages of building materials on all facades: 51% face brick, 25% vinyl siding, and 24% fiber cement panels. 4 additional buildings are proposed for the development, including a clubhouse, pool building, maintenance building, and mail kiosk. I will not get into all the locations and square footages of these buildings, but they are all in compliance, as they are all over except for the maintenance building, over the square footage requirement required to match the existing primary buildings on the lots. Here before you are the proposed building elevations. I know it's kind of hard to read on the screen. They're also in your staff packet. Per Chapter 1208, Part 4 of the Middletown Development Code, the applicant must provide a lighting plan that identifies the location, height, and luminaries to show how the proposed lighting intends to comply with the regulations. The applicant submitted a site lighting plan as well as a photometric plan. All lighting standards are satisfied with the proposed lighting within the subject area. So all development within a planned development shall be subject to the standards of Chapter 1216 unless otherwise modified through the planned development process. And the applicant did submit a landscaping plan. A total of 182 trees are proposed, exceeding the requirement of the minimum 15 trees per gross acre in the BC district. The applicant proposes to landscape greater than 75% of the area within 10 feet of all principal building, exceeding the requirement of 50% of that area being landscaped. The applicant proposes 6 trees and 40 shrubs for every 40 feet of vehicular use area that is adjacent to public streets. And there is a proposed of just over 10,500 square feet of interior landscape area within the interior parking area, exceeding the requirement of just over 9,000 square feet. Additionally, the applicant proposes 34 trees and 85 shrubs, with the trees meeting the requirement and the shrubs exceeding the requirement of 1 tree and 2 shrubs for every 10 parking spaces. In total, the landscaping plan includes 93 deciduous trees to be planted by the applicant, 60 trees to be planted by others, 29 ornamental trees, 542 deciduous shrubs, 958 evergreen shrubs, 273 grasses, and 324 perennials. And then per chapter 121610, large waste receptacles shall be screened. The applicant does propose to screen the trash compactor with a vinyl enclosure and color matching the vinyl siding throughout the development. Here's your landscaping plan. Getting into the parking spaces, this is where it gets a little hairy, just to follow the math and not that they're not in compliance. 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit are required for multifamily dwellings, equating to a total of 432 parking spaces required for the proposed development. The applicant does propose 339 off-street parking spaces for the final development, including 278 standard spaces, 50 compact spaces, and 11 accessible spaces. According to Exhibit B of Ordinance 02023-21, so that's going to be that project narrative, Middletown Event Center Master Plan narrative, the concept of parking is to provide shared parking for all uses on the site, so an additional 75 on-street parking spaces will border lots 4 and 5, where this development will be, increasing the total of parking both on and off street to 414 spaces, a reduction in the required parking spaces by 18 spaces. Just like I noted earlier, the development may provide up to 10% less parking spaces without needing a waiver or a variance. And the applicant proposes just over a 4% reduction in the parking spaces, so within that 10% allowance. The applicant does propose a 9 by 18 foot parking stall, a 1 foot reduction in length of stall. This can be modified or accepted through the administrative waiver process. So I did put it in there as a waiver requested, but it can still be approved administratively. The applicant will need to provide a detailed signage plan that identifies the location, height, and types of signs that will be located on the building, as well as any ground-mounted signage. The signage plan will need to show how the applicant intends to comply with Chapter 1220 of the Middletown Development Code. The general locations of the building signs are indicated on the various elevations in the schematic design package. As for other department comments, only one was received from the Community and Economic Development Department. The complex will be a positive addition to the Renaissance Point and to the city overall. I did receive a comment via email from Todd Duplain of Woodard Development, noting how crucial and critical the approval of this portion of Renaissance Point is. Before you is their application. Here is the layout plan. I know it's hard to see. There is a lot of detail provided. It's really only legible as you zoom in on PDF. But they did also provide a fire truck turnaround design showing how fire trucks will maneuver within this development. Here is their light plan. As for staff recommendation, staff recommends approval of the final development plan for the 288 units on a total of 8.12 acres within the Renaissance Point development. Here's your review criteria, and now I will conclude my staff report.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board for staff at this time?
This is the final development plan, and there's no signage plan yet. How's that governed?
So that would just be subject to the normal regulations of the Chapter 1220 of the Development Code.
So as long as they meet that development code?
And if they don't, they would just go through the variance route. Yeah.
Did you say they did a traffic study?
Can you move the microphone?
I'm sorry, keep forgetting. Did you say they did a traffic study? Because it looks like they're directly across from the Middletown Christian Academy or school.
Renaissance Point as a whole, I cannot speak to that. I imagine there's been some serious studies. As I know, roadway improvements are scheduled for State Route 122 as well as Union, I believe.
Okay.
Can I, what's a pilaster? I'll ask the applicant. I don't, a plaster, I don't even know what that is.
Take my question off the air.
Kind of a column usually.
Is it? But as far as the vinyl siding that's gonna be on these, proposed to be on these, elevations, is it in compliance with the current development code, regarding vinyl?
Yes, because there is no vinyl proposed on the first floor of any building.
Very good, thank you.
Cool. All right, do you have any other questions? No? In that case, I will move forward with the public hearing. If you would like to speak in favor, please come forward and be sworn in.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Identify yourself, please, sir.
William Kirk, President of Hallmark Communities, address 150 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. I just want to stand up and answer any of the questions you guys may have had about the development, kind of give a little background. We've been working with Woodard and Todd Duplain on Renaissance Point, specifically the apartment site, for at least probably a year and a half at this point. We've gone through a lot of iterations, and we met with Nathan Cahill and various members of the city staff probably 2 months ago to go over some of their questions and try to amend our plan with any comments they had about orientation or location of some of these secondary buildings, trash compactor maintenance. Gave a little bit of background on why our buildings were laid out the way they are is primarily because of grade. There's some substantial grade difference between the corner where our clubhouse is located and all the way up to our northwest corner, some 20 feet of grade, and then substantial grade to the south as well. So that's kind of helped configure our building layout. So we tried to keep a lot of our buildings to the perimeter, so we didn't have a field of parking that is visible to the public. So we had walked through some of those comments with them, but I also want to answer any other questions you guys may have about the facade. We've got our architectural team with us, our civil engineer, and then I can speak about the units or any other questions you guys have.
Building 4 and 5, those are the two buildings where it's proposed that the parking criteria be satisfied with off-street parking?
Yes.
I'm trying to find it, but where that off-street parking is it on the the exterior side of the? My point being, is there going to be any? I know it's off-street parking, but considering everything that's going to go on there, less traffic density around that edge of the.
Ron,
is it anticipated less traffic density there?
I'm going to let my other team members speak to the specifics of that actual question.
Yes. If I can find building 4 and 5. Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony? Yeah, I'll swear everybody in at the same time if you're all going to testify or maybe testify. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And whoever's going to speak, identify yourself, sir, please.
Yes. My name is John Delverne. I'm with Bayer Becker, 6900 Tylersville Road, Mason, Ohio. We're the site civil engineer on the project. Sorry, I'm going for my... So the question was the location of the on-street parking.
Yeah.
And then we counted the 75 spaces that we counted were only the spaces that are adjacent to the properties. So not on the other half of the street, the opposite side, but immediately adjacent to this development.
And is there anything, what's on the other side of that, is there anything anticipated on the other side of that? Is that going to be Atrium Boulevard, or is that going to be
I believe that's the event promenade.
Event Promenade?
So to the east, going north-south is Event Promenade.
Okay,
The other side would be the event center if that's planned.
so that's where buildings 4 and 5 are.
You referring to lots 4 and 5? The plat we're building on lots was platted as lots 4 and 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. Buildings, there's 2 buildings where it's anticipated that to satisfy parking, the off-street parking will be used?
That's for the entire development.
Is that in the entire development? Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I confused you.
Sorry,
all.
yeah, maybe I'm.
Okay. Disregard. That clarified everything I needed. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions that can be directed to the applicants at this time?
Seems pretty straightforward. It's already the final development plan, so I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, man.
All right, if we have anyone else wishing to speak in favor,
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
So this is one of our final steps with Renaissance. And as you've seen, if you've gone to other places that have the retail, the events, Liberty comes to mind. They don't have an event center, but they have like a movie theater and a Funny Bone Club, and then they have all the retail around it. And then beside that, they have the living spaces. This again is something that, as Mr. Mentel always brings out, we need the density, and everyone starts someplace or in someplace. And sometimes people like apartments because that's close to shopping. It has walking spaces. These guys have a great landscaper because you've seen how many plants they're going to put up, which is, I think that's really, I joke about it, but it's very important. You know, when you see a lot of places that just look like building and concrete and post boxes and dumpsters covered. It's kind of nice when people actually say, we're going to exceed the necessary landscaping to know how important this is. But to answer your question, Tara, on the Union Road, that is going to get massively renovated, redone, because even down the way, and this will probably be coming in the future, possibly, of rezoning that area to make it more R residential, because there is some industrial there. But this is just another step that we're taking. I really had no idea of the huge apartment complex Echo Point. Right by the YMCA. So we're seeing the need for them. And like I said, some people just, they don't want to shovel snow. They don't want to cut grass. And in the summertime, they want a pool from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and then they want it to close, and then they want to go do something else. But this is kind of cool where it's facing the event center. And a lot of you'll notice a lot of the one-story retail areas. In Hamilton, they actually have a retail area, and then they have 3 stories of living space. So this is just one more key component to help our citizens have other options for living, and also to bring in new citizens to live there as we continue through the Planning Commission, following the codes and the ordinances as we should, and asking the hard questions to make sure we're just not putting things up just to put things up. And I do appreciate that the ordinance that we changed with the vinyl, we're getting a better quality look and feel, because we still live in a steel town. So I always want to say that I'm for this, for the added density, to give our citizens and new citizens the opportunity to live here and shop here and grow here through all the opportunities we have here in Middletown.
thank you. If there's anyone else wishing to speak in support, please come forward and be sworn in. Seeing no response, I now ask if there's anyone wishing to speak in opposition to please come forward and be sworn in. All right, seeing no response, I will close the public hearing and we will move to deliberation.
Well, once again, pretty straightforward. I mean, there's, like Mr. Horn said, there's a lot of positive aspects to this development. that end a sentence, period. Sorry, a lot of positive accent, period. My bad.
There you go. I would echo that. Unless anyone else has anything they'd want to add, I mean, I would make a motion for approval at this time.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Mentel?
Yes.
Mr. Shanlin?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Mr. Cash?
Yes.
And Ms. Ramsey Hunter?
Yes.
All right, that brings us to case number 15-25. This is a request by applicant Lori Glover for a conditional use approval. Ms. Benninger, can you please take us through the case?
Yes, this is to allow for an assembly hall or conference center at 1368 Central Avenue. The property is zoned UCC, Urban Core Central Subdistrict, where such use is a conditional use that requires review and approval by the City Planning Commission per Table 1204-3. For property background, the subject property is a total of just about 0.1 acres, according to the Butler County Auditor, last sold in July of 2016. The primary structure on the property is a commercial building built in 1920 and has a total gross building area of 7,215 square feet. Sorry. The subject property, like I said, is in the UCC district, and that purpose is to encourage, support, and enhance downtown Middletown as a mixed-use, high-intensity urban district and center of retail, service, entertainment, office, government, and urban residents. It's also to encourage pedestrian-oriented retail or eating, drinking, and entertainment establishments on the ground floor and residential on the upper floors of the buildings, but also allows for service, office, institutional, and recreational uses. Looking at the staff analysis, the use type is defined as facilities or buildings available for lease by private parties that may include kitchen facilities for the preparation or catering of food, the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premises consumption during scheduled events not open to the public, and/or outdoor gardens, decks, or reception facilities. And as you can see before you, that is a site plan prepared by the applicant. Due to the public noticing requirements, this was published with at least 10 days prior to this meeting, as well as written notice provided to the applicant and property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way. One comment has been received to date and has been forwarded to you all for your review. For other department comments, the Community and Economic Development Department encourages that the applicant connect with Dave Riggs, the Director of Small Business Development Center, for additional support for small businesses within the city of Middletown, and the city is able to make that connection. The building division provided comments stating that the applicant will need to submit an architectural set of plans for the change of use. Permits will be needed for all work executed, and the subject location will need renovations to become ADA compliant. Before you is the public comment received in support of this. As for the comprehensive plan, the land use map notes that this is the downtown land use category, and the land use recommendations are included in the urban core. So we're really looking at the residential and commercial development that includes retail, recreation, and entertainment uses. As for the downtown strategic plan, also referenced in the comprehensive plan, the plan themes are to live well, move safely, attract strategically, and grow smart with a variety of plan principles. Here is the application. It's a little blurry to see, but this is really for your smaller bridal showers, baby showers, event spaces such as that. As for staff recommendations, staff recommends approval of the conditional use application for 1368 Central Avenue. And here's all of your conditional use conditions and criteria, and the time limit and appeals process, and that will conclude my staff report.
Do we have any questions to direct to staff at this time?
One question, since this is going to be an event, are they going to serve alcohol?
That is a question for the applicant. I did not ask.
Okay, and because they are in the Dora district too, so that's kind of a good thing. Okay.
Sure. All right. In that case, I'm going to open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak in support, please come forward and be sworn in.
Lori.
Right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this commission will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Identify yourself.
I'm Lori. I'm here of Middletown, Ohio. Live Lori Lab Vending and Catering, owner and operator.
Can you tell us a little bit about your proposed business here? Kind of what is, based off the definition of an event center, it could be a lot of things. What are you planning to do here, and what will it look like?
Definitely on a smaller scale, much smaller scale. Next door, I have that place has like at least 2 storefronts down there. So next door is a balloon shop, my balloon shop. I design balloons. We have party rentals, so party supplies and stuff. I make the place all pretty and decorate it up and invite people in for open house, kind of see things. And because it's so pretty, people want to come down and have a bridal shower, Much smaller.
Gotcha.
But
So-
they keep using the word event. I try to stay away from that word, but creative space is going to be the name. I'm nervous. Creative Space by Lori. That's my name.
Is the primary use then, is it more of a sort of a showroom maybe, or people will come here to have, so like a bridal shower, baby shower, is 50-50 or?
I say 50-50. The thing is, I got much more space than I needed, so I'm trying to get some money down here. I'm trying to
I see.
kind of, use
To
other side.
address Mr. Horn's question, are you going to be planning on serving alcohol at the establishment?
No.
No?
No, yeah, I've been told what I can and can't do down there, and that is the selling point for me. I kind of tell people we're in the Dork district. You can go there's tons of bars down here.
Will you be allowing the people to bring Dora beverages into your facility though?
I don't think that's permitted. We haven't talked about it. That's not an issue for me at all. I mean, once I say I can sell by saying we're down there in the vicinity, period.
So you are willing to collaborate, because that would be that would be something great, since you guys are there as a place to hold events, and the people could patron to the other facilities.
Yes.
And then I guess if you can get permission that it's allowed that they can bring them into your facility, that would be a great opportunity.
Yes.
And part of what our district is for, that area. Okay.
Right, and DMI says they're willing to, help me out, take this thing to the next level when it's time or whatever. I have White Dog across street from me, and what is the barn? DC Row House. Definitely would love to partner with them and see what we could do, what I could do.
Do we have any other questions? I guess what are your expected hours?
I have apartments on top of me, and late night. As of right now, 11. DMI mentioned to me that they are trying to get businesses down there to stay open later because downtown closed down early, they say.
Have you looked into the cost of becoming ADA compliant?
Just another bathroom at this point. Apparently, my occupancy numbers will be low until I get a second bathroom.
Are you planning on being open on Sunday?
Yes.
All right. Do we have any other questions at this time? All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Please come forward and be sworn in. Having no response, I will now ask if there's anyone wishing to speak in opposition to please come forward and be sworn in. Seeing no response, I will close the public hearing and we will move to deliberation.
Well, looking at the review criteria, and I'm not sure if the numbers that are in the packet are not the same as the ones that were on the screen. Yeah, it looks like that I wrote on ours, what is your number 1 on there is number 12, 13, et cetera. So give me a moment to translate that. So number 1 and 2, 6, and I guess that would be 10.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
I can see what happened here.
Yeah.
It's
So I'll just go ahead and read them real quick. The proposed conditional use is established as an allowed conditional use in an applicable zoning district. The proposed use is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the master plan and general purpose of the code. The proposed use will be harmonious with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use will not change an essential character of the same area. And the proposed use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. I think it satisfies all of those.
Yeah. It makes sense to me. You know, with the downtown core there, having a place like this where you can have your event, say you have some sort of like get together there, and then afterwards you stay downtown, you get another drink, get some food, you get a door, a beverage to come there. That all makes sense to me. I would urge the applicant to please do make use of the Small Business Development Center. It's a great resource. There's a lot of help out there for small businesses, and that can make a world of difference.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Mentel?
Yes.
Mr. Shanlin?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Mr. Cash?
Yes.
And Ms. Ramsey Hunter?
Yes.
All right, and that brings us to case number 16-25, which is a request by Ashley Wallace of Bear Becker on behalf of property owners City of Middletown and Woodard Development for approval of a final plat. Can you please take us through this?
Yes. So this is for Renaissance Phase 2. You guys saw the original plat back in 23. That's why I said current lots in the gateway presentation, because they're about to change. So this is a replat of the original plat. The original record plat, created a total of 6 lots and established Event Promenade, Middle Drive, and Atrium Boulevard as roadways, equating to 42.049 acres of lots and 4.9244 acres of right-of-way. The subject area is zone BCH, effective May of 23. And you guys don't need the purpose read to you. So the proposed replat of lots 1 through 6 of Renaissance Point, submitted by Bayer Becker, includes the division of lot 1 to create lots to be known as lots 7 and 8, the retitle of lot 2 to be known as lot 2A, the retitle of lot 3 to be known as lot 3A, the retitle of lot 4 to be known as lot 4A, the division of lot 5 to create lots to be known as lots 9 and 10, and the retitle of lot 6 to be known as lot 6A. Lot 10 is formally designated as open space, equating to a total of 1.5312 acres. The replat further defines lot acreage as now being 39.6986 acres. Right-of-way on Union sections to be just going to read it, 0.0681 acres. Right-of-way on State Route 122 sections as 0.5556 acres. And right-of-way of Atrium Boulevard as 0.0194 acres. The plat also shows an electrical easement on State Route 122 border of the entire development that is subject to change prior to final recording, as the easement is still in negotiations. The rename of an existing channel easement to existing water main easement in the lot to be known as Lot 8. The establishment of a sanitary sewer easement and water main easement in the lot to be known as 2A. A 30-foot public storm and drainage easement to be in the lot known as Lot 4A. The removal of a parking easement in the lot to be known as Lot 2A. Sanitary sewer easement in the lot to be known as Lot 4A. Private access easement in the lot to be known as Lot 10. A 30-foot sanitary sewer easement in lots to be known as Lots 10 and 9. a 30-foot public storm and drainage easement in the lot to be known as Lot A, and the removal of a drainage easement and detention pond easement in the lot to be known as Lot 6A. The plat appears to be complete and has been deemed acceptable by the City Public Works Director. Following the approval of this proposed plat by the Planning Commission, the plat must be adopted and endorsed by City Council prior to recording. No other department comments have been received at this time. Here's your currently approved plat. And then we're gonna get into the big picture of the plat as well as the closer images of the various sections. As for staff recommendation, we recommend approval of the plat for Renaissance 2, or Renaissance Point Phase 2. And here is your review criteria for a major subdivision, and that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you. Do we have any questions that can be directed to staff at this time? No? Okay. Hearing none, I'll move to public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to speak in support, please come forward and be sworn in. Seeing no response, I will ask if there's anyone wishing to speak in opposition to please come forward and be sworn in. Having no response, I will close the public hearing. Do we have deliberation?
Say it with me now. Sounds a little straightforward.
Need to get you a little button for that.
Yeah.
All right.
And the replat has satisfied all of the governmental agencies and departments that have any particular interest or legal interest in responsibility, so
Yeah.
it would seem that all the review criteria have been satisfied.
Very good. In which case, I will make a motion for the approval.
I'll second.
Double stacked.
Mr. Parsons,
Yes.
Mr. Mentel,
Yes.
Mr. Shanlon,
Yes.
Mr. Daniel,
Yes.
Mr. Cash,
Yes.
and Ms. Ramsey Hunter.
Yes.
All right, this brings us to old and new business. Item A is Planning Commission member training.
All right, instead of sending out an email trying to gauge interest in getting like 8 different emails from you guys, I'm gonna have you all take out your phones.
Yes.
Let's set up a date of when you're available, as well as our council.
So is this like last week of May, first week of June? What are we thinking?
When, I would like to defer to council on how much advance notice he needs to prepare a training, but then after that, I'll open it up for you guys.
We have trainings that are, I don't want to say in the can, but we do this a lot, so we're ready to move as soon as we can get a convenient date. The one thing I would say is that I might have you all, we can pick a date here tonight, and then I'll work with Ms. Fetters to get maybe individually email her, not collectively, but if you as individual commission members have some specific topics of interest that you'd like us to focus on, we'll definitely tailor things to that. So
I would ask if there would be any potential for maybe virtual options, just keeping in mind of if people have commitments and things that might be hard to be in person. And with that, if it could be possible to maybe have a recording as well. I assume, we record these meetings, we could do that, but to have for in the future for new members, it could, be a resource as well.
that's certainly an option. I think perhaps maybe due to some attorney-client issues, we might want to explore that a little bit, but we can definitely provide some materials that maybe you can carry forward to help with that referring back.
How do I public notice a virtual meeting?
We can talk about that offline, maybe, yeah. And whether that's necessary for the purpose of a training, I don't know that that's one that you would necessarily need to provide public notice for, but yeah.
I'll is it helpful to maybe say days were not available, or what? I have a few set dates I know each week and month that I will not be able to miss.
Definitely no council meeting days, so there are some Tuesdays that are off limits.
Wednesdays of the first of the month are off limits because there's Board of Zoning Appeals. The third Thursday of each month is off limits because there is Historic Commission.
Certain Mondays, every other Monday,
However, sorry, I didn't mean to talk over. Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, it doesn't look like Tuesday, the 27th, there's no council meeting. I mean, I could make time, I'm typically busy on Tuesdays.
Let me suggest something that we've done with other jurisdictions. This is obviously a day or an evening that is blocked off on your respective calendars. Would it be convenient or helpful to maybe just plan to have the training an hour or two prior to the next commission meeting? We could all agree to show up at, if they normally start at 6, we could show up at maybe 4:30 and do that.
I think I can make that happen.
Yeah, I can make that happen.
All right.
Seems to be
How elegant.
a good choice.
All right.
Cool.
So the next meeting is at June
June 11th, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Shoot for 4:30 then.
Okay. Shall we move on to item B, 2020 to 2025 Planning Commission case review?
I would love to. This was a great exercise for me, so I thank you guys for asking for this. I started just going back 5 years, looking at all the plan developments that you've seen. I did not include more of the nuanced major amendments to a development plan, so such as you guys have seen, like with the Atticus. I did not include those dates on here, but Sawyer's Mill was pretty big because that included some addition of homes to that development. So looking at starting in 2020, we had Sawyer's Mill. That's in the construction phase. They're finishing up. I haven't seen a new permit come in for them in quite a while. Renaissance, they are still in the permitting and construction phase. And also owe us some plats to get going on some of those more later sections you guys have approved, I think in as late as December maybe. Wellington Manor Apartments, that is now known as Heritage Landing, and that is in the permitting and construction stage. The southwest corner of Manchester and Dixie, that is now known as the Marathon. That is in operation and is in the process of a zoning violation because they are not in compliance with their preliminary development plan. They were required to construct a fence as well as landscape, and those have not been abided by. My re-inspection is set for the Tuesday after Memorial Day, so next steps on that are unknown currently. So they will be back before you for a final development plan at some point. And then Echo Ridge is in the permitting and construction stage as well. Mr. Horn brought that development up. Waterford Place is also in the permitting and construction stage. The Hill subdivision was denied, so is not moving forward. The Atticus apartment we are waiting updated permit submissions. An extension was granted in November of 24 by you all. So they have up to November of 25 to start moving dirt. Riverbend subdivision was denied by Planning Commission but withdrawn prior to its hearing by City Council. Renaissance Point is in the final development plan submissions, as well as we have phases getting ready to submit for their permitting, and construction is obviously happening over there. The Reserve at Roosevelt Ridge, that is in the permit and construction stage. Havenwood, just awaiting those permit submissions. The Villas at Emerald Enclave, awaiting those permit submissions. Maple Ridge, an extension was also granted for them in November of 24 to allow for an additional year between the preliminary development plan and final development plan submission. So we're just awaiting that final development plan submission. Wawa was denied I think, last meeting by council, so that will go into effect shortly. In Towns of Lincoln Village, we are just awaiting permit submission. This does not include map amendments only. This does not include conditional uses. This is just looking at PDs and kind of the preliminary and/or final developments. So would you guys have interest in me going back further? Do
How
you,
long has the PD existed as like a zone? Is it that from the 2018, no, or older?
older? I mean, I'm currently on the hunt for something approved in the 70s. That was a planned development, so a long time.
They're only good for a certain length of time, 2 years.
You have 1 year to submit your final development plan following preliminary development plan approval.
This isn't going back, say, 5 years or.
It's up to you. Or I can do this exercise for conditional uses. It's whatever you guys would like to see.
Claire, can you go back one? So I thought the Atticus Apartments, that's Jordan, wasn't it? I thought he pulled out and his land is now for sale.
It is, but his development is still approved.
Okay.
So he could technically sell that. And somebody could come in with that development plan.
So this someone else can take on his plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good for everyone to know, I guess.
It might help if we had addresses on these.
I know, that's what I was like,
Yeah, I was also like,
you,
because I recognize a couple of these from, you know, the cases, but I wasn't here for at least half of these, so, but,
Do you want addresses, parcel numbers, both?
Addresses.
I'm fine with that.
Acreage?
Yeah,
Look up parcels.
not like you can type.
You
in a
guys don't know the
parcel
parcel
number on
numbers?
Google, you
no,
know, so.
I would like to know the acreage if any, I mean, I think that would be
Yeah, acreage would be good, because then you can take a look at,
what they're yeah, and then we can
Yeah.
go back and see.
do you know off of the dome if any of these were granted, a variance in that minimum acreage for the PD?
The southwest corner of Manchester and Dixie was, because that is a single property, not 5 acres. All these other ones are well beyond 5 acres,
Yeah, I figured.
beside the villas at Emerald Enclave. That,
The one at Dixie and Manchester, wasn't that a larger land development?
that was a map amendment, because I almost put it on there, because it was for Speedway.
Okay, it was Speedway.
They were just changing from,
They wanted to be pulled out of the planned development.
yes. So it was a zone change and a amendment to a plan development instead of a preliminary development plan. So now it's just B2. The Villas at Emerald Enclave is smaller than 5 acres, but that was it was already under a preliminary development plan back in the 1900s. I don't remember what decade. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At the
yes,
end
remember
of,
that one. It's
Eaton
okay,
Avenue, yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And then Wawa is the only other one. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That probably took a lot of effort.
Item C is a map amendment. Was it 3,409 and 3,413 Van Nest Avenue?
So this is a consideration for you all if you would want to pursue this map amendment. This came before me when somebody wanted to use 3411 for a tire shop. And we were looking at the zoning, and it's zoned R3. However, it's part of a multi-tenant shopping center where the other half is zoned B1. So the map quite literally cuts the building in half, with the left side being B1 and the right side being R3. I had the conversation with the property owner. He said, I have this conversation about every 3 years, and there's always a new staff member. So I'm then walking them through this whole process. And I was like, well, maybe it would behoove you to do a map amendment. I haven't heard from him, but this has just continued to stick in my brain that while our comprehensive plan, I think, identifies this for a mixed residential, it doesn't make sense to me for a building to be split in half by 2 different zoning districts. So if you guys are interested in me pursuing more, having a case before you for this map amendment, city-led instead of applicant-led, I'm more than happy to do that.
I mean, I'd be interested, especially if it would relieve stress, I should say, from the tenant or the applicant, I guess, if this is like a recurring issue.
Yeah, it sounds like he's
Does he have a preference as to what zone you would be in?
B1. Here's the property, here's the parcel.
Yeah, it's IGA. Yeah.
I grew up in this neighborhood. I've driven, I rode my bike by this every day for like 15 years, so.
Would it be helpful to have any sort of motion or anything from us, or just us telling you we would like to?
I would like a motion to concrete it, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
What, so like a motion to pursue this?
Will you make a motion?
I make a motion to pursue this map amendment to allow one single use for the building entirely.
You just get a little,
I make a motion to, for a map amendment to make the 3409 and 3413 Van Ness Avenue one whole entity. So would that be B1?
So I'll bring before you a full case
Okay.
for your review.
oh, okay. So this is staff-driven.
Yeah, this is to initiate that,
By our
yes.
By request?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'll second that.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Mentel?
Yes.
Mr. Shanlin?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel? Mr. Cash?
Yes.
And Ms. Ramsey Hunter?
Yes.
All right. And last but not least, we have item D is text amendments.
So this is not the only thing we can discuss, but I know Mr. Horn had already brought this up at the last city council meeting. So whether you guys initiate it tonight or Mr. Horn wants to initiate it at city council, I have this before you for your consideration to add a council liaison to the historic commission, similar to how he is your council liaison to planning commission.
And I'll speak to that. There was a few folks at Historical that said, why don't we have someone come into our meetings? And it's like, I don't know. So I had to go into the ordinance. I don't know why we don't, because they do the same thing. When I listen to their meetings, it's similar to what you guys are doing here. And most of the historical stuff the city owns, whether we want to or not, or it's a house like mine that's over 100 years old, and if they want to build, last meeting I listened to, they want to build a garage behind it, but they just want to build a Lowe's garage. It's like, no, it has to match the house that's over 100 years old. So, and my apologies for getting behind on this. I've been giving Alex and legal a break since they've been having to deal with Cats, not the musical. So I thought I would just give them a little bit of a break while they're working through that. I have to laugh because of the 2,000 emails that they'd make a separate server for, so I could actually see my packets and everything else. So, but back to this, back to focus. So I will write this up, and it's just their commission is written different than yours. Yours is, I'm a non-voting member. This will just be line item 9, and it'll just be an addition of a city council liaison. It definitely, on theirs, it doesn't say voting. And on top of it, which will not be part of the text amendment, I did suggest, and I will volunteer once this gets through, probably around August or so, once it comes to you and comes back to us, that I would like to sit on that. And I just suggested to future councils when they are appointing people that the person who sits here sits there, because it's very similar, and it might be a situation where they're sending something to you guys, so we don't have two city council folks or the mayor having conversation back to council. It's like one person can be the speaking point. But my apologies, I'll get on this, and like I said, it's just one light item to add to it. And folks from the historical have requested this. This is not just me being me. It's something that they have actually asked for.
I mean, this is within our purview to, okay, yeah.
That's why I've, just like what she's doing with the map. You and I have had conversations about these new homes. If it's not in our ordinance, because if it's not something that we It's been invented, it's not going to be in our ordinance. So you have to sometimes write those text amendments, and that's why I encourage you guys. I know you're doing this for the low, low price of free. We appreciate that, because if not, the city council would be having 2 meetings a week, every week. But anytime that comes up in your minds of, hey, you know, I was bored and I looked in and something's going on in my neighborhood or something with that was in the ordinance, it is your ability, because the previous chairman brought something to us. So you guys can do that. You guys can write text amendments and help us out, because a lot of that stuff, I know I keep saying last century, but a lot of stuff is last century, because if it's not reviewed, like that one thing I reviewed that seems to be very popular, then I'm always a person that likes to question things, and I will die on that hill, good or bad or different, but maybe something less controversial. But you have that ability, and that's why you guys have this, and that's why we want to do the training, so you even have more abilities to do this. But this, I know we've been here forever. I'll get this worked out, but I just want to give everyone a heads up, because it will be coming to you, and that's if I get 2 more votes, I got them. But, you know, it'll come to you always. And then you say, yeah, this is a good idea. Or you can alter it and say, you know, we like this change. But it's just really going to be one line of adding a council member to be on the historical commission.
Very good.
I do ask if you have any proposed text amendments, if they're initiated tonight or something, that whatever draft you propose, send it to legal first, because at the end of the day, it needs to be a legally defensible document.
Sure.
It's easier to get it right the first time than to have to unwind something and go back and fix it.
And copy me on emails if you're going to do that, please. Going off of text amendments as well, the city released a request for proposals at the end of April, for consultants to give proposals for the development code update. It was last updated fully in 2018. The proposal, or the deadline for submissions ended on last Friday, the 2nd. 2 Fridays ago, I'm sorry. Time has no meaning. We received 5 proposals. So the city internally just met yesterday to go over the submissions and kind of decide the next steps forward. We will be meeting internally with the top three that we have selected to get more information from, as well as talking to our counterparts where they have conducted work to see how those went. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. Nothing is happening right now, but there will be something going to council eventually for here's who we've decided, here's why we're doing this, here's what's going to happen, here's the timeline, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. So if you have anything that's pressing, by all means bring up those text amendments that we can initiate prior to that happening. But if there's something more long-term that's going to require some serious looking into, perhaps that's something to start bringing up now so I can put it on the radar for that.
Very good.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about putting things on the radar, at last week's Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, Mr. Cash and I are both on that board. There's been a lot of variances for, correct me if this language is wrong, but for lots that are non-conforming from like infill lots that have had new like zoning districts applied to them after they were built. So we had a very brief discussion about like what can we do as a planning commission to allow for more infill development like that. Is there any ideas? Just putting it out on the radar.
There is a certain level of relief already in the code, such as architectural standards. If a lot is already 80% developed, the development code administrator does have the ability to review the architectural standards of that block and determine what architectural standards were around at that time of the development of the majority of the block. As for what you've been seeing at Board of Zoning Appeals, it's the language in our non-conforming lots of record is more for a relief on setbacks rather than the infill lot itself. So that's maybe a point of contention that you guys want to address either now or in the development code update. It's up to you.
So, I mean, is that kind of like an easing of setbacks? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, it's so that the house meets the setbacks as best as possible. That's the language. Rather than the lot is 40 feet wide, not 70 feet wide in an R4, or the lot is not 125 feet deep, or something like that.
That's all I had on that note. We're just talking about putting it out on the radar.
All right. Do we have any other business to be addressed? All right, in that case, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Are we going to do anything with this historic commission, or is that, no? Okay, okay.
To be determined.
TBD, okay.
Tune in next episode.
Sounds
Claire,
good.
I forgot. I asked you a question about 715 South Main, about a potential violation, zoning violation. It's a single-family home, and I've heard from South Main people that we had a changing cast of characters there, and that the owner was intending to use it as some kind of home, kind of like the one we discussed earlier near Roosevelt. Yes. I'm just wondering, like, what does the city do anything about that? Do you investigate? How does that work? I know that we can do certain things. What do you say, Daniel? Sorry.
There's been notices on that house
Yeah.
the last 3 or 4 years.
What do you mean notices?
Violations.
Yeah. So.
If there's a neighbor that thinks there's a zoning violation, certainly report it to the city, which we can take back, and then the city has a mechanism to enforce the zoning code against the property owner.
It has to come from the resident who is.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit easier. What would happen with that is probably how we're going to treat it with other similar, is we would send a pre-violation letter because we really don't have proof. And you would want a zoning violation if you're going to issue the full certified letter, zoning violation, to be defensible in court.
If we were to gather evidence ourselves, South Main folks, and present it to the city, is that actionable?
I mean, if you're doing it in your capacity as a citizen, and that's, yeah, you don't leave your rights as a citizen at the door because you're volunteering to be on planning commission. So, if you yourself want to initiate the complaint and stuff, that's, yeah.
And you can go on the Citizens web page, and you can type up the address, the violation, and hit submit, and it actually generates.
Yeah, I know you can make online submittals.
So, yeah, I've had a neighbor who liked not to paint their house and let everything kind of fall apart. So it's like, oh, look, and it's anonymous too. So internet's great, and it does follow up with cases. So but it doesn't take it to planning commission. It takes it to the code violation. So if this is a zoning thing, do your due diligence. But yet there are mechanisms that you can. It's Citizens.
Citizen
Serve, and it's on our main website. And yeah, it's very useful, and they give you updates too.
Appreciate the tip. Thank you. Sorry to.
No worries. It's good to know. Guys. Anything else? All right, motion to adjourn?
Made. So moved.
All right, let's get out of here.